This Italian rice pie is known as Pastiera di Riso, and it's commonly made around Easter because the eggs and grain represent new life. But you should make it whenever an occasion calls for a special treat because it's one of the most delicious Italian desserts. A fluffy and orange-flavored filling with a buttery and flaky crust makes for the perfect bite. Let's start with the pie crust. In a sieve, combine 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix together the dry ingredients and make a well in the center before dropping in 1 stick or 8 tablespoons of cubed butter. It's important the butter is very cold so it doesn't melt while you mix together the dough. With your fingertips, press the butter and flour together to get smaller and smaller pieces. To make things easier, you can chop up the butter with a bench scraper. Keep combining the butter and dry ingredients and rubbing it through your hands until it has a similar texture to sand with tiny pebbles. Form the ingredients into a well again and drop in 2 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk. As you can see, I forgot the extra egg yolk, so I ended up adding it a little later. With a fork, begin whisking the eggs together and start pulling in some of the dry ingredients little by little. Then start pushing everything together to begin forming the dough. And once again, use your bench scraper to make it easier to fold everything together. Keep tossing and kneading until a very loose and shaggy dough forms. Now, grate in the zest of 1 orange, and this is also where I remembered to add the extra egg yolk. At first, it will be very dry, but keep kneading for a couple minutes, and eventually all the flour will be absorbed by the butter and eggs, and it will form into a more homogeneous dough. And that's when you want to start forming it into a compact and circular disc. Once the dough is smooth and circular, wrap it tightly in plastic wrap and let it rest in the fridge for 1 to 2 hours while we begin to make the filling. In a medium-sized saucepan, pour in 4 cups of whole milk, 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, and toss in a few large pieces of peel from an orange and lemon. Next, add 3/4 cup of arborio or other short grain rice before sprinkling in an 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. Mix very well and turn the heat up to medium to bring to a simmer. After the milk is hot and begins to bubble slightly, turn the heat down to low and give it another stir. Let the rice cook for about 20 minutes or until most of the liquid has been absorbed, and stir every few minutes so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Once the rice is fully cooked but not mushy, it should be very creamy but still flow easily in the pan. Toss in 1 tablespoon of butter before giving it one last mix. Pour the cooked rice into a baking dish or tray and spread it out evenly. Cover with plastic wrap so the top layer doesn't harden while it also rests in the fridge for an hour to completely cool down. Once the rice is cold, you can begin to combine the filling. Start by pressing 1 container or 14 ounces of ricotta cheese through a strainer with the back of a spoon to smooth it out. Then crack in 2 eggs, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and add a small pinch of salt. With a whisk or fork, evenly mix it together, and after that's combined, you can start to add the rice. But first, remove any large pieces of orange peel. Add the rice a couple spoonfuls at a time to start to ensure it gets evenly incorporated. Then drop in the rest of the rice and mix again. I also put another 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon at this point to amp up the flavor, but that's optional. Now flour your workstation and lightly cover the dough. Cut off 1/3 of the dough, which will be used for the top, and take the larger piece and begin forming it back into a circle by cupping your hands around the edges and rotating quickly. Dust the dough and rolling pin in flour again and start stretching it out. Begin each roll in the center and push to the edge before picking up the pin to go back to the center and then towards a different side of the dough each time to keep an even circular shape. Once it's fairly rolled out, you can roll the pin across the length of the dough to get it very large or until it's about 1/2 centimeter thick. Match it up with your pie dish that's ideally 9 inches wide and 2 inches deep. So you want the dough to extend about 2 inches further out from the pan. If you need to do some patchwork and cut off a piece of dough to make one side a little longer, that will work fine. It can be difficult, to remove a cooked pie from a pie dish without breaking the crust, so a trick you can do is adding a few strips of folded tinfoil along the bottom of the buttered pie dish to help lift it out later. But if you plan on serving the pie straight from the dish, then this isn't necessary. This is also a good time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Roll the pie crust onto your rolling pin to help lift it into the dish, placing it into the center. Lift up the edges of the crust to help drop it in place, then use your hands to gently press it along the bottom and sides to make sure it's fitted tightly to the dish. Using a sharp knife or pizza cutter, cut off the excess dough that hangs over the sides of the dish, and with your fingertip, you can press together any craggly parts of the top crust to smooth it out. With a fork, poke a handful of holes into the bottom. Now do the same thing you did with the first piece of dough to the second. Form it into a disc again, cover in flour, and also evenly roll it out until it's about a ½ centimeter thick and set to the side. Take the filling and pour all of it into the pie. Use the back of your spoon to smooth it out evenly. Using a pizza cutter, slice off the very ends of the top dough to make it more square. The classic look for Pastiera di Riso are the horizontal strips of dough used for the top layer. So cut the dough into strips that are about 1 inch wide. We'll need 8 strips total, so space them out evenly using 4 strips to go across both sides. Place the second set of strips over the first at a 45-degree angle to make a diamond pattern. With your pizza cutter, cut off the excess dough once again. Then pinch the top and bottom dough to crimp it together and completely seal it. You can also lightly press the edges with the side of a fork to give it a more uniform look. Lastly, for an extra golden crust, brush on a little bit of an egg wash, which is just 1 egg beaten together with a splash of milk. Now, on the bottom rack of your oven, place in the pie and let it bake for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Check it at the 1 hour mark to see how golden the crust is. If you're happy with the color, you can lay over a sheet of tinfoil to prevent it from getting any darker. After the 1 hour and 20 minute mark, check the doneness with a toothpick to ensure it's not wet in the middle. You can let it rest and firm up in the pie dish for about a ½ hour, then lift it up using the handy tinfoil strips and let it cool completely on a rack. Once the pie is cooled off, finish with a dusting of powdered sugar before enjoying. You could slice it up and serve while it's still slightly warm, or put it in the fridge for a later day. The filling will be creamy but not too sweet, perfectly flavored with the ricotta and orange, which goes great with the delicious buttery crust. You can find the full recipe in the description below. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments or if you plan on trying this one out. Thank you for watching.